We have too many people who talk too much, but do nothing. So that's my Chinese accent, because people think I hate the Chinese. No, I just hate people who oppress others.
Thank you so much for joining us and for agreeing us to actually come here for us to do this. So the first question that I have for you, it's actually like I want to ask this question from a very genuine place and as a concerned citizen as well. Like, how are you doing?
How am I doing?
Yeah.
No, I'm actually doing very great. I've lived my whole life knowing and understanding that your life is not about what happens to you, but it's about how you react to what happens to you. So I've always tried and develop a positive mindset and a positive outlook. I remember the first time I went to prison. I joked to my parents saying that I'm going to Dubai for a vacation.
Really?
Yeah, that's basically what I tell them. And then they're like, Chino Namwe, Kurina say what, and all these things. But it's me looking at it in a positive way to say that, you know what? I'm now going to a place where they're going to give me free water, free food, a free bed to sleep. So that's a vacation, if you ask me. Nothing else. It's a pure vacation.
Exactly.
And it's a paid for vacation where I don't need to fork out money. So it's all about me looking at things in a different way. So sadly, I'm in a very good space. My mindset is in a very good space. My spirit is in a good space. Physically, I'm in a good space. Mentally, I'm in a good space. So spiritually, I'm also in a good place. So everything about me is just great. I would say it so.
Great to hear that. It's actually good to see things from a positive perspective, and I think we all have to kind of like learn that as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, the problem is if you stress about things, you can't change things when you stress about them. But the moment you start to look at them in a different perspective, that's when your mind also starts to go to work in order to find solutions to that particular issue that you're having. Now, most of our problems as people is not because we are unable to solve them. It's because we are constantly looking at the problem so much that we forget that if you stop looking at the problem and perhaps start focusing on something else, a solution will eventually come up. So I have a philosophy that says that if I can't change it, then I cannot stress about it. It's as simple as that. But if I can change it, then best believe me, I'm going to be hunting like a dog every day, just there, trying to change that particular thing because I have the ability to change it. I can't change the fact that the sun is going to rise from the east and it's going to set at the west. So that I cannot but stress about to say, oh no, today it's too sunny or today it's too hot. I cannot change those things. But the things I can change, best believe me, those are the things that I focus on.
Yeah. Yes. Wow. If you ask somebody like who is Michael, I think we might all have like different definitions and different perspectives on it. It's like, so can you just give us a brief description of like who is Michael?
I'll define myself with one word: a dreamer. All my life, I've just dreamt about things, and I remember vividly very well in 2012 when I was still working at Namibia Brewers Limited, and I got fed up of working there. Also, I saw that the working environment was not as great as it's supposed to be, and I also wanted to, because I did the maths. I wanted to do the calculations to say, because I was an apprentice brewer, literally brewing your Tafel lagers, your Windhoek lagers. I also used to brew Heineken because we used to brew Heineken there, Amstel, Castor, Windhoek Light, and you mentioned all their brands. I used to do that. So one day I calculated to say, how much is one tank? Now, one tank of theirs is about 2 million liters. And I then calculated how many 750 bottles come from that one tank. And then I saw this millions and I was like, but these guys are only paying me after all the deduction is just 16,000. But I make every day for them millions. And I was like, wait, man. And then I started calculating to say, okay, if I work until 60, will I ever get a million? And I realized that I was never going to be a millionaire, even if I worked for the best paying company and all of these things. So I realized, I'm not up for this. And then I decided to say that I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to work to become a millionaire. So that was my dream. So in 2012, I resigned. And obviously my parents were like, this child is crazy. This child, someone has bewitched him. Because it's not in our culture as black people to resign from a good paying job. Because that time you're encouraged, omburai, kana kanji tovurukuza mumumburai, omburai irongi wanawa, what. So people thought I was crazy to have a dream to say that one day I'm going to be a business person or entrepreneur and I'm going to become successful. Because I told my parents that one day, just watch, people are going to speak about our surname, Amushelelo. And they were just like, whoever wished our child, opo. But it's something that I genuinely believed in. And I said, I'm going to go after my dreams, no matter whether my family is going to support me. And they didn't support me. Sadly, blacks, we do not support dreams. We have been obviously programmed to think that you must go to school, you must pass, you must go study further, you must get good grades and all of those things. So to thumb it up, I'm just a dreamer. I'm just a young person who has dreams, and sadly, my dreams are always big. My dreams are always audacious, and that's why people always sometimes look at me and think that this guy is a bit crazy.
That's actually good. Like I think like once you have a dream, it's only you yourself that can actually understand it. People around you, they might kind of understand it, but they won't understand it from your own perspective. And obviously it's only going to be you. Like if you really like have like you believe in that dream, then you obviously go for it no matter whatever comes in your way. Even your family is not going to believe it, it's not going to kind of like support you as well, give you the support, as you said.
No, but I think that generally comes from how we have been raised as well. Because I come from a family where we didn't have successful business people, successful entrepreneurs. Now, for you to come and say that you want to become this, people are going to laugh at you. You know, I always tell people that people are never going to support the dream. But once you become successful, that's when people are going to support you. But no one supports the dream. And the dream is hardly supported because people have seen that some of them have, it's from a personal experience where someone had quit their job and this person became much more worse than they were. So as a result of obviously not having positive role models in the family, in the community is always going to laugh at you. I mean, imagine if I come from the village where Shoke Chula Chula came from, and someone a few years ago would say that there's going to come a team that's going to blow the country away. People are going to laugh at you. People are going to mock you. So unfortunately, sadly, we make a mockery of what we do not understand. Now, I was listening to a very interesting story, and it's about the African impala. The African impala, from where it's standing, it can jump up to about 1 meter high. And then when it's moving, it can even jump as far as 3 meters to 6 meters high. But once you take that impala and you just put it into a zoo and you put a 1 meter wall, it's not able to jump out of that. Now, the question is why? It's because people are afraid to jump at what they cannot see. Because the impala doesn't know where it's going to land. So as a result, it's scared of jumping. Now, that's why many of us, we are scared of taking a leap of faith because you do not know where it is that you're going to end up. Now, with dreamers such as myself, we are crazy enough to say that, you know what? I'm going to quit this job. I don't care whether I'm going to get hungry. I don't care whether I'm going to be ridiculed by my family, whether I'm going to be mocked, whether I'm going to be laughed at by society, but I'm going to make this jump whether I like it or whether whoever likes it or not. And that's the crazy part about we dreamers. We do things that people will look at it and say, but that is crazy of you. Because no one is going to jump without a parachute. That's the first thing you need to understand. So as dreamers, we jump, and then in the middle of the day, we now try to figure out, okay, how do I create a parachute so I can land safely? So in the middle of the day, instead of me just screaming, ah, like I'm going to fall. No, I'm now thinking, okay, Michael, we jumped. Now what now? So then you come up with a solution. So sadly, that's the nature of a dreamer. And that's who I am in a nutshell.
Wow. Great to hear that. So, like, okay, you are like a very busy person as well, like literally running the whole country. I don't know how you do that. So, like, okay, what keeps you up at night?
You know, I once had an interview. I think it was in 2014, and those who like to do comparisons and those who like to judge people and so forth. they can go and watch that video. I always said that what keeps me up at night is the fact that others go to bed without having food. Others go to bed without having a roof over their heads. Others go to bed without having any hope, without having any aspirations. So those are the things that keep me up at night. Now, for as long as we live in a country that is so blessed in terms of natural resources, but we still have over 1.6 million people living in poverty, there is no way I can comfortably go to bed, put my head down, and just sleep knowing for a very good fact that there are people out there that did not have the same meal that I have. I almost probably have a 2-course meal at night where I would have my dinner, and then because we've got, I'm privileged, I'll then have what is called dessert. Others did not even have anything to eat. So that thing eats me up at my conscience. And it then is the thing that allows me to say that, what is it that I can do? Despite the fact that I'm privileged, it doesn't mean that I cannot speak for the underprivileged. Despite the fact that I now have a voice, it doesn't mean that I should keep quiet and not be able to speak for those who don't have a voice. So I've literally now using my position to say that I might not have that much influence, but the little influence that I have, I'm going to make use of it to try and better someone else's life. And those are the things that keep me up at night, to make sure that one day when I go to sleep, I know that each and every single Namibian gets a decent meal. What do you mean by a decent meal? A decent meal simply means that no one needs to go to a dump site and then go and pick out food that is rotten. I mean, I live in wealthy suburbs, or the suburbs where people have made it in life. And it saddens me that people who have not made it in life, each and every single day, especially on the days when the refuge drums need to be collected, these people come and do shoppings in our refuge drums. They will be there trying to see, what did these rich people throw away? Did they throw away food? Because rich people, if the cloth just doesn't fit their color, they'll throw it away. If the shoe is all of a sudden not matching their outfits, they'll throw it away because they obviously have it in abundance. So these people then, that's their shopping place. Now, why must someone have a dustbin as their shopping place? I mean, I understand that phrase of another man's trash is another man's treasure. But no, not in a rich country like this. In a rich country like this, no person's trash should be another person's treasure, because we should all be able to have a piece of that treasure which belongs to Namibia, and it belongs to all of us. But now, unfortunately, due to greed and corruption, this wealth of our country only belongs to a few people. And that is why some of us are going to continue fighting until we have equality in this country, because the inequality is just too high. Imagine this. The world has over 195 countries, if I'm not mistaken. We are ranked number 2 as the highest unequal society after South Africa. Just imagine that. The second highest unequal society in the world after South Africa. Now, why is it that we are after South Africa? It's because we share the same similarities. Remember, after World War I, and this is now when Germany got defeated in World War I, it lost all of its colonies. Now, Namibia at the time, which was called West Africa, was also one of the German colonies. Then something was created called the League of Nations. When the League of Nations was created, obviously it was created by the Americans and the British. And then the British give the mandate to South Africa, because South Africa at the time was what? A British colony. So as a result, we were indirectly now colonized by Britain. And as a result of that, you will realize to say that our economies and our similarities, they are so common. We've got so common similarities. I mean, go now to South Africa. You will find how things are established. You will find a township, and immediately next to the township, you find the industry. Why do you find township and then industry? It's because you create the industry, and then next to the industry, you make sure there's a township. Because industries need cheap, poor laborers. You will never find an industry close to a luxurious suburb. That's because these people wanted to make sure that you've got poor people going to work to these industries. They must literally foot so that they are not able to say, no, we don't have transport, we don't have this. They must just foot all the way to make sure that they are able to create wealth for the wealthy. And at that time, obviously, it was the white minority. Now, and that is why today you'll realize that 70% of our land still is in the hands of white people. In South Africa, it was in 1913 when they passed the land, the Native Land Act. That simply means that black people were deprived of all of the land. And native South Africans were only reduced to have 13% of the land. And that means the rest of the land belonged to white people. That's why today you'll realize to say that the economy, most of it, is belonging to white people. Now, why does the economy belong to white people? It's because when you have land, that means that you can be able to do agriculture, you can be able to build massive industries, you can be able to do mining. You don't do mining in the sky. You don't do mining in some heaven. No, it's done on the ground. So, for as long as we do not have the land, that means that we are landless. Now, why is it that we never asked ourselves? In our national anthem, we sing Namibia, our motherland, but we have no land. We are supposed to say Namibia, our motherless, because we don't have land. What is the land doing there?
We don't have it.
We don't have it. So you can clearly see that there are similarities in terms of the inequality, because it was a system that was created, and up until today, that particular system is still at play. And that's why I always tell people to say that we never gained independence. We never won independence. Because had we won independence, today there would be no black people living in shacks. There would be no black people begging on the streets. There would be no black people living in poverty. Because that simply means that we would have taken ownership of the economy, would have taken ownership of our land, and would have taken ownership of our country. What happened was, it was a negotiation where white people said that, you know what? We are going to keep whatever we stole from you guys. But what we are going to do for you black guys, we are going to give you nice Mercedes. You can now start occupying our nice, beautiful state house, our nice parliaments that we built for you, and we are now going to give you titles. You are now going to be called honorable. You are going to be called His Excellency. And then our buffooneries accepted this. And what happened? They then, one by one, started getting a piece of their share. They got shares in companies and all of these things. Ask yourself, how did a guy like Cyril Ramaphosa become a billionaire? It was through these B deals. It was the Oppenheimers that gave him shares in various companies. How did Patrice Motsepe become a billionaire? It was through him being given certain companies by the Oppenheimers and things like this. So these are the realities that we do not tell our young people. We just tell our young people, we fought for this country. Had we fought for this country, there would not even be a red line today. Imagine the red line was created during the time when Germany still colonized this country. But up until today, you cannot bring your meat from the north to Windhoek. And you want to tell me you're living in an independent country. That country is not independent. So for as long as we do not have the means of production, which is our land, then unfortunately, there is nothing that we own. We do not have ownership of the economy. Our banks, as we are currently speaking, there is no Namibian-owned bank in this country. None whatsoever. Bank Windhoek is not Namibian. Bank Windhoek comes from a bank it comes from a bank called Fox Bank. Fox Bank used to be an Afrikaner bank that was created back in the years. And then they just literally gave it to their white cousins here and said, here, you guys manage it on this side. And on South Africa, it became ABSA. ABSA used to be an all-Afrikaner.
So ABSA and Bank Windhoek is like the same?
They are same, they are cousins basically. Now, if you look at Standard Bank, if you look at First National Bank, Nedbank, for those people who do not know, Nedbank actually means Netherlands Bank. Because that's where it's coming from. It comes from Netherlands.
Really?
Yes. So it's a Dutch bank. Barclays is obviously English. You see, if we look at organizations such as Sanlam, Old Mutual. Old Mutual is from the United Kingdom. That's where it was created. That time it was now for the British. And the Afrikaners created now what is called Sanlam. So what the Afrikaners did is basically whatever the British had, they also created something similar to it. Afbob, the famous Afbob where we bury our people.
Yeah.
You know what the A stands for? Afrikaner. That's why today, all of a sudden, because some of us started speaking about these things, they now changed it all of a sudden to Nambob. But we know for a fact that the whole thing stood for Afrikaner. So imagine all these years, we as black people were still being buried by the Afrikaners. And then we proudly say, Afbob. This type of things. It's because we never gained true independence. True independence simply means that you own your land, you own your economy, and literally, virtually, you own your country. And that's why countries like Libya, Libya nationalized its oil.
Like how is that?
Nationalization simply means that the oil no longer belongs to one family. It belongs to the country. And that's why Gaddafi was able to use his oil to make Libya a prosperous country. In Libya, there was no poverty when Gaddafi wasn't there. If you were a student in Libya and you graduate, and let's say you graduate as a lawyer, and you are not able to find a job, the government was going to pay you a salary equivalent of what a lawyer earns until you find a job. When you get married, they give you a house and they give you a starter pack for you and your family to go have something to start. These are the things they never teach you because they wanted you to believe that Gaddafi was a monster and he was a dictator. Why did they want us to believe that? It's because America is the largest consumer of oil. And America's thirst for oil is the reason why they went into Iraq, is the reason why they are currently disturbing the Middle East, is the reason why they overthrew governments in Ecuador, Nicaragua, Panama, all of these places. Look at history. The CIA has always been at the mission of destabilizing countries. That's why currently in Namibia, they've built the biggest army base, and that is to make sure that the oil that we have discovered belongs to them and they have control of it. But we never question these things. We are just saying we are independent, we are independent. If we are independent, look at all the big franchises that we have here. It's mostly American franchises. KFC is what? It's American. Coca-Cola is what? American. Now, you can clearly see that this is America protecting its interests. Go look at the mines. Who are the people who control these mines? B2 Gold is controlled by who? It's controlled by Canadians. Canada is literally just the puppet of the UK and the United States. So they use Canada to say, you go do the drilling for us and then bring back the gold to us. So we have not been independent. Sadly, we have, and here's the nice thing, you know, when the white people decided to make this deal, they told the comrades to say, go tell the people whatever lies you want. Go tell them you defeated us. Go tell them you killed us. Go tell them to say that you fought very hard for this country to free it. But it's not the truth. It's not the reality. And we must be able to frankly tell our people what is the truth. Because if the people do not know the truth, we are going to continue believing in this propagandas. And propaganda is simply a lie that's been told over and over. And then you eventually start to believe it.
Wow, that makes so much sense. Because I'm seeing now why a lot of people from Netherlands actually like using NetBank. And also like it's because it's apparently very quick and also very, like it works best for them as well. And now I'm seeing like the country, Namibia produce this amount of gold, Namibia like all this, but we don't own any of those.
Precisely.
We don't own any.
No, we don't. I mean, look at the ownership of mines in this country. Go, do your homework, do your research. Government always owns less than 5%. The only place where we own 50% is De Beers. It's Namdeb, through Namdeb, that partnership where the Namibian government and De Beers. That's only thanks to the to Harry Oppenheimer. Now, Harry Oppenheimer realized that in order to protect his family's wealth that was created by his father, Ernest Oppenheimer, he made sure that he needed to be in business 50-50 with governments that were gaining independence because he did not want to lose their mines. Because in 1975, Zambia had nationalized their copper mines. But guess what the West did? The West, because they are the ones who control the price, they simply went to go drop the price of copper to next to nothing. And now, Zambia was selling its copper, but your copper is now not of any value.
Yeah.
As a result, slowly but surely, they started to privatize the mines again. Wow. So we need to wake up and realize to say that when we gain ownership and full control of our country, we must be able to process our minerals ourselves. Because if I have the copper, what is copper used for? Copper is used for electricity wires. Copper is used to make sure that your pipes for plumbing in the house and all of these things. Copper is used as an alloy for other elements. We must be able to process our things ourselves. Why must we continue begging the West to sell our raw resources to them? If they drop the price of diamonds, then let it be.
Yeah.
What diamonds are not just for the rings. Diamonds have an industrial purpose because diamonds are the strongest elements. You can use them for cutting literally anything. I remember very well in World War II, America needed 1 million carats, no, 5 million carats of diamonds. And because the De Beers family has the control over the whole entire diamond market in the world, they have a monopoly over that diamond. They said, no, we're not going to give you 5 million carats of diamonds. We're only going to give you 1 million. It's because they needed these diamonds in order to be able to process weapons, to create tanks and all of these things, because they were gearing up for what? World War II against Germany, Japan, and Italy, which were, the three of them had fought an ally to basically overthrow the world.
Wow. Sure, that makes a lot of sense now. Like, okay, now what, we have now the green hydrogen project that is now like being hyped in Namibia. And it's like, it kind of look like it really going to kind of like have positivity bringing to the country. Like, what is your take on the green hydrogen? I guess you studied it and you should look at it. Is it something that is going to benefit the country? And it's also like,
I think as Namibians, we must start looking at the trend. And we must honestly start looking at why is it that presidents always in their last terms, they always come up with great initiatives. Now, Sam Nujoma was our first president. He was only supposed to be president for 10 years because that's what the constitution says. But we went and changed the constitution to give him another 5 years. Many people don't know this. And then he served for 15 years. That's why he served from 1990 until 2005. Because remember, from 1990 until 2000, that's 10 years. And then because of the change in the constitution, he served until 2005. Now, in 2004, what did we launch? We launched Vision 2030. Now, why must you launch a vision when you are going out of office? Why did you not launch Vision 2030 in 1990 to say that by 2030, we want Namibia to become an industrialized country? Now, let me tell you something interesting. Dubai in 1990 was just sand. Sand. What is Dubai today? It was a desert. Let me not even say sand. It was a desert. Today, everyone wants to go to Dubai. Now, why is it in 1990 when we gained our independence, we're not able to convert Namibia into the Switzerland of Africa, into the Dubai of Africa? So, SEM, 2004, launches. What is it launch? Vision 2030. Then who takes over? Pohamba. Pohamba comes in, his first program, we start speaking of high unemployment, and then he creates what's called TPEG. Targeted Intervention Program for Economic Growth, where the government wanted to create 100,000 temporary jobs. But guess how much we spend as a country? We spend over 17 billion Namibian dollars. That's why you remember from the period 2012 until, I think, 2014. That's when you saw the most C63s in this country. Whoa! Because it was created out of tenders. Remember those tenderpreneurs? Where did all those 63s disappear? It's because in 2014, we started saying no more tenders. And as a result, because of the tender boys having been used to milking government, all of a sudden there were no longer tenders. But here's the thing. Pohamba started in 2005. Served his first term until 2010. Then got voted again in 2009 to serve for another term. And then all of a sudden, when he's about to leave, he starts now with mass housing. Do You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
And then we hear from the first term Harambee prosperity, Harambee prosperity. Then second term, we start hearing Harambee prosperity, Harambee prosperity. Now, all of a sudden, just a year ago, or 2 years ago, before you're about to leave office, we now start hearing what? Green hydrogen. Green hydrogen has, or let me say, hydrogen in its actual fact, has been done for a long time. There's a company called Sasol in South Africa. They produce hydrogen and ammonia, but they use coal. That's why it's not called green. So it's something that has always been there. Now, why is it that all of a sudden we only got these bright ideas suddenly? It's because you can clearly see that there are certain individuals who want to loot, they want to eat state resources before they go home. Because remember, I'm about to go home as a president or whatever. And the best part that we did when we gained this country, we wrote the constitutions, and in the constitution we said that me as a president, even if I steal state resources in the office, I can never be prosecuted because I've given myself immunity. That's why even if we come up with things that Sam and Pohamba did, there's nothing that we can do because they've got what? Immunity. While they are in office and while they are out of office. Immunity is only supposed to be when you are in office. And then when you're out of office, then we say, Chief, you stole here. Let us arrest you for stealing money. GIPF was under whose era when 600 million disappeared? It was under Sam Nuyoma's era. Everett case was under whose era where Kandara got killed? Sam Nuyoma. But you cannot bring these things up and say, we want to hold you accountable because of what? Presidential immunity. So I want to tell Namibians that this green hydrogen, for a lack of a better word, because we are now on TV, it's nothing but hogwash. Hogwash. That's what it is. Who are the people spearheading this green hydrogen? It's a guy called James Munyupe who's from Tanzania. These foreigners are going to eat this money for green hydrogen, sell you the pipe dream, and guess where he's going to run to? He's going to run back to his country. And what's the president going to do? We will not be able to touch it. Because he's immune. But this one that's selling us now the dreams every day, we're excited to tell you about the green hydrogen, the ammonia, you know, we must be very careful about these guys who speak this English that is almost sounding from America. We remember very well there was a guy who also used to speak this English that was from America. So we must be very careful with these guys. They come, they speak so fluently, they speak so nicely, but it's all dreams that we are being sold. Now we are being told 600,000 jobs are going to be created in 2040. What jobs are going to be created when? It's like they just keep pushing the goal line. So you can clearly see that these are dreams that we are being sold. Nothing else, nothing more. I mean, the president has been in power for the last almost 10 years now, 9 years. Why all of a sudden are you seeing that there is a need for you to increase the salaries of the pension funds for pensioners just when you're about to leave office? You can clearly see it's them again trying to sell dreams to our people. Those things you were supposed to have done it already when the first day you got into office. And here's the thing. We always hear the notion of saying that Gengop came to save the government because the government was having so many problems and we had so many financial issues. But let's speak the facts. Before Gengop entered office, Parliament only used to have 72 members. Under Gengop, they changed the constitution to allow 108 members of Parliament. For 104, if I'm not mistaken, 104 people to be in Parliament. 92 are voted, and then, no, I think 94 or 96 are voted, and then he, as president, he can appoint 8 of them. That's why you see this Patient Masua, what's this, Emma Theophilus, they were literally just bulldozing to say, let's lie to young people that we are about empowering young people, and let's just get this. When have you ever seen those two young people articulate issues about the young people in this country? You have never seen them at the unemployment protest. You have never seen them at the forefront of saying that government should do ABC. These are literally lap dogs that have been brought into the system just to be chihuahuas. You know what a chihuahua is? A chihuahua is just something to look nice for the owner. It's just for decoration. Even if a thief is to come in, it will not be able to defend the owner. So we cannot have chihuahuas. We're supposed to have pit bulls who are able to defend the country. Because a pit bull, where does it stay? It stays behind the house.
Yeah.
Locked up. Because why? Because you know very well that that pit bull has the potential to do what? To attack and defend.
Yeah.
But these chihuahuas, they are just for show. They are just to decorate. So they are there for decoration. And we cannot have people being put into positions for mere decoration when we've got serious issues that need to be addressed in this country. And then let's look at the other thing. He started creating so many portfolios. Before he took over, we didn't have no vice president in this country. So Geingob clearly owed so many people so many favors that he needed to increase parliament. He needed to create new positions of vice president. Imagine in the office of the president, there is now what you call a minister for presidency. There is a minister in the office of the president. This is mockery. This thing. I want to laugh, but because these things are so serious, I can't laugh. A minister in the office of the president. Then all of a sudden, because here's the problem, Geingob stayed too long in America. No, this is the reality. Geingob all his life has been in America. Now, obviously, he looked at what the American system is all about. They've got vice president, they've got spokesperson. That's why he's got that idiot who likes to eat in Greek salad as his spokesperson. That one defends even things that are undefendable. Remember when the president took his kids to Dubai on the expense of taxpayers? He was the first lap dog, another chihuahua. Wow. We have too many chihuahuas. And then all of a sudden we got the A-team. We had your Steitlers. Some of them we've even forgotten who they are. I think there's the youth, the one for youth. We don't even know what youth things she talks about. So we clearly have a government full of too many chihuahuas. And then we started creating organizations or bodies that directly report to the president. Like the NIPD as an example. This Namibia Investment Promotion Board. Where do you think that thing falls? It falls under the office of the presidency.
Really?
Yes. When the budget for NIPD comes from the office of the president. Each year they receive almost close to about 115 million. Now here's interesting. Here's how much the Ministry of Youth gets. Sports and culture. They only receive 250 million. Now imagine State House last year in its budget, they received 900 million, almost $1 billion. What is State House doing with $1 billion?
What? Yeah.
While we have Ministry of Youth, where young people are the ones affected daily by poverty, by hunger, unemployment, and all of these things. But we're only giving them like 250 million, and the office of the presidency, we're giving them almost $1 billion. It's because these guys want to eat because they're about to do what? They're about to leave office.
But, okay. Now I'm like, this is so much to take in.
No, but these are facts. You can go and fact check to say, did Geingob bloat the government? Yes. We created Ministry of Poverty and Eradication. In fact, poverty just increased, if anything else. And that's why I'm very skeptical when we create things in this country, because it seems to me the opposite happens. So when we create the Ministry of Poverty and Eradication, poverty seems to increase. So these are things that we must be able to look at and say that, no, but Geingob is also part of the problem. He was Prime Minister all these years. He should have known better to say that as a government, we do not need a vice president. Because what's the function of Nangolo Mbumba? Nangolo Mbumba's only function is to go read speeches when Geingob is not available. Why can he not send Alfredo Hangari? Is he not the president's spokesperson? Then why have two spokespeople? Because you already have Alfredo Hangari, and now you still have Nangolo Mbumba.
And it's like the vice president and then the prime minister. Don't they have like the same?
Obviously, if you go read our constitution, the vice president is appointed at the mercy of the president. So it's just a non-functional office that's there. It's just an office for show. The vice president has no power, has no mandate. He's just there serving. I think the correct wording is he's serving at the mercy of the president. So why must we have people serving at the mercy of the president? They must be serving at the mercy of Namibians, because these are the people who do it. And then guess what? We then changed the system because a lot of regions, they used to be in the hands of the oppositions, especially the Okunenes, the Erongos, and all of those. Now, we then said, no, man. Governors must be appointed directly by the president. They must not be voted. Why? It's because the president now wanted to have spies in every region. Because what do you think these governors are all are? They are just spies for the president. Look at all of them. They are all useless. All of them useless. No power, nothing at all. Last year, last of last year, I remember I went to Hardap region and Karas region. There was workers working, they were building a road. They were working for a Chinese company. And I went down, and then when I went down, obviously all of a sudden when they heard that Amushelelo is in town, all of a sudden the governors from Hardap and Karas, they both now came to apparently meet with the Chinese. And in that particular meeting, I was supposed to go in that meeting. But eventually at the last minute, they said, no, I cannot enter that meeting. Why? It's because these two governors obviously are going to be told by the Chinese what is it that they need to do. And the Chinese know for a fact that they will never be able to tell Amushelelo what not to do. And they went into that meeting, and when they came out of that meeting, nothing positive came out of that meeting. Two governors could not solve that issue. Just tells you how useless they are. And when this governor for Hardap comes out, I think his name is April, he comes out and he insults the workers by calling them rascals. And that day, I almost went to prison for something serious. Not these things where I'm just arrested for no reason. I almost beat up that governor. He must be very grateful the police were there to stop me. Because that day, that governor, I would have beat him up properly. There's no way you insult the people who make sure that you get a salary each and every single day, end of the month. So these people have no respect for our people whatsoever. And that is why you can clearly see that they've been put in those positions so they can just also be chihuahuas like the Emmas and the patient Masuas and the Alfredos. They are all chihuahuas.
Okay, let's talk about now the labor hire system. Like you have been fighting the labor hire system, fighting for the retail workers in Namibia, and you went to prison for that multiple times. So can you tell us about tell us about that? What is the labor hire system in Namibia? How is it, and how is it taking advantage of the workers in Namibia?
Now, this labor hire system is not something new. It's an old system that comes from the days of apartheid. Now, in apartheid days, it used to be called Swanla. There's a famous word which is, they call it Okaholo. Now, what that simply means is that back in the days, this apartheid guys would go to the north, Kavango and many other places where there was a lot of workers. And then they would obviously then check for your physicality, if you're physically strong and all of these things. And then these people will place you into a particular job. You say, okay, you are going to work at this mine, you are going to work in this factory, you are going to work in the sea and all of those things. Now, when your salary was then paid, it's then paid to this guy who looked for you the job, and then this guy decides how much it is that you earn. Really? So, yes. So it's not you being directly employed by the company. Now, the reason why this happens is because if a company directly employs you, then companies need by law to give you certain benefits. But if I'm not the one employing you, then I don't need to give you these benefits. You understand? Now, this is when now the likes of Sam Nujoma went to exile. to basically fight this contract labor hire system. It was remember, had there been no contract labor hire system, Namibians would have been comfortable living under an apartheid government. But because this labor contract hire system was so diminishing to them, it indignified their lives and all of those things. They decided, no man, enough with this Swanla, we are going to fight against it. Now, we thought with independence, would have, that's the very first thing, would have gotten rid of it. But no, it's still here until today. And that is why you realize to say that someone is working for a retailer, they are starting at 7 until 9 in the evening, but end of the month, this person is maybe supposed to get 4,000. But because of this labor hire companies, this person maybe just gets 1,700, 1,400, 1,200, sometimes you even just get 900. So where does the rest of the money go? It goes to that labor hire company. And this labor hire company does nothing. So these are people who are literally sucking the blood of our people. That's why you will realize, ask yourself, go now to Katutura location. Old Herero, Nama, Tamara, Vambo Lokasi, Donkerhoek, and that area where they used to call Slavik and all those other places. Go and ask majority of those, because most of them are now just women who own those houses. Ask them what were their professions. Most of them will tell you they used to be domestic workers. Now, if a domestic worker could afford a house during apartheid, was apartheid really that bad? If today you as an engineer, you as a lawyer, you as a doctor, you as a nurse, you as a teacher, you people, the so-called people who studied and graduated and all of these things, cannot buy decent houses. Many of these professionals are living where? In flats. Who owns these flats? Obviously the elite. So you can clearly see that this independence that we gained, we must start questioning it, man. To say that, is it an independence of poverty? Is it an independence of hunger? Is it an independence of joblessness? What type of landlessness? What type of independence is it that we have? So these are the things that we need to start looking at. So it cannot be correct that someone gets paid 1,700, 1,400. Because I know myself, on a monthly basis, 1,400 is not even enough for my fuel. Petrol just, I'm not speaking about food, I'm not speaking about electricity, I'm not speaking about my water, just for my petrol, it's not enough. Now, how do those human beings survive? And then we ask ourselves, why is it that majority of these people who work for retailers, security guards, even our police, even some of our teachers, our NDF, they are all living in informal settlements. They are living in kambashus. It's because life is hard. I have an uncle who works in the army who lives in a kabashu. I'm not speaking things because I'm not aware of this. I'm very much aware of this. So these are the daily realities that we are facing as a country. If a soldier in this country lives in a kabashu, do you want to call that independence? If police officers also live in kabashu, and remember, police officers are the very same people who are arresting us on a daily basis. Now imagine I know where you stay as a police officer. I'll come and burn your kabashu. So we must be able to say this independence. Because what does independence mean? That's the first thing that we should be able to ask ourselves. Independence means that you are able to stand on your own. You are able to be self-reliant. 80% of our food still comes from outside of the country. 70% of our electricity still comes from outside of our country. We spend almost 5 billion each year buying electricity. This is 5 billion that we could have spent each year to make sure that we've got enough capacity to generate electricity for ourselves. And by now, had we put ourselves in a position, we would have been earning as a country even 10 to 20 billion selling electricity to South Africa and other neighboring countries who are struggling with electricity. You can clearly see that there is no independence here. And that is why I'm constantly on a daily basis fighting for these issues. And it's not just about the labor hire or anything. It's basically any social issues that we have as a country. Because when I went to close down Chinatown, it was not about workers. It was about the issue of fairness. We've got Chinese and Indians being allowed to sell fake products in this country. But never have you seen Namra going to close down Chinese shops or anything of the sort. But on a daily basis, Namibian goods are taken by Namra. Apparently, they are fake and all of these things. And what do they go do with them? They go ban them.
And these are students and people that live in informal settlements.
Doesn't matter. These are sometimes just people who have houses, but they have to sell these things in order for them to be able to supplement their income. Because if I have a house that I own with a bank, and with this repo rate that keeps increasing like this, and my salary is always staying small, eventually what's going to happen is that my salary will be too small to pay for the mortgage. So what am I supposed to do now? Must I allow the bank to come and repossess my house and sell it? Or should I start a business of ordering suits from China, phones from China, or whatever it is that I can order from there and at least start to sell? And sometimes we have invested all of our money into our kids. We have sent them to university and all of these things. Now the child graduates, they are unable to find a job. Now government says, we are not God, create your own jobs. Now when we try and create our own jobs, the same government is the one coming to do what? Coming to shut us down. So I took a principled decision to say that if Namibians are not going to be allowed to sell their products, then Chinatown myself closed down. Because who is the mother and father of fake products? It's the Chinese. Who sells the most fake products? It's the Chinese. So why is it that we're not closing down Chinatown? But the small people who are just trying to earn a living because you have failed to provide them with jobs. You have failed to provide them with free education that you promised them. You have failed with all these promises because at 1990, go and read Sam Nuyoma's speech. There are videos of him speech when we gained independence. He said, we are now the masters of our own destiny. Does it look like we are masters in this country? We are still slaves. We are not masters. We are still slaves. And that is why some of us, because we have grown a conscience, we are simply saying that what is currently happening in this country is absolutely wrong. And someone must be able to stand up and rectify it. Most people are not going to stand up. Why are they not going to stand up? Number one, they are comfortable. You have a comfortable job. You live in a nice suburb. You get a nice salary. We call them the petty bourgeoisie. The middle class. They are the petty bourgeoisie. So they don't care. Now the petty bourgeoisie are the buffer between the poor and the rich. Because they defend the interest of who? The rich. Against who? Against us, the poor. That's why you will see that most of the people who are against me, it's always the petty bourgeoisie. The guys with the nice fancy cars, that boy is just disturbing the country, man. He's just doing nonsensical things. But who embraces me? The poor. It's always the poor who embrace me. Because what is it that we're fighting? We're fighting a class system. We want a classless society whereby I'm not judged based on he's a middle class, upper class, higher class, or whatsoever. No. In society, there must come a point in time where if we are not all equals in society, at least I have a roof. I go to bed with 3 meals. My children can comfortably go to any school of their choice without me having to worry to pay about it. I can access any health medical facility without having to go to a clinic and stand there for 5 days just to be attended on the 6th day after I've died. There are people who wake up 4 o'clock, they go line up at the clinic just to be told at 5 o'clock the clinic is closing. Why are we closing clinics at 5 o'clock? Clinics must be open in this country 24/7. The moment we open clinics 24/7, then most of these nurses who are currently unemployed, how many employment are we going to create for them? Why must the clinic close? I can become sick at 12 in the evening. You are told, no, you must wait until in the morning to go to the clinic. Remember, Katutura Hospital, you can't go there. It's only when you are referred or when it's an emergency, when you have been in an accident, you have been stabbed. That's the only time you can be taken to Katutura or any other hospital in the country. That's a referral or a district hospital. But on a normal day, you must first, if you have something that can't be seen. Because remember, not all diseases can be seen. They will tell you, wait until the following day. And that's how a lot of our people are dying, because they could not get medical attention in the beginning. Now, the other issue that also needs to be looked at is to say that, why is it that it's only state facilities that are falling apart? It's only our hospitals, it's only our schools. There's Lady Pohamba, there's Roman Catholic, there's Mediclinic. Go there. Squeaky clean. Go now to Katutura. Some of us, like us who sleep with open mouths, will just be swallowing mice and cows. You will be swallowing mouses and rats. Because that's the condition there. It's simply because the politicians are now in bed with the capitalists. These guys have acquired shares in these companies. And remember, where do they get treated? The president flies out of the country each year for his medical attention. He doesn't get treated at Windhoek Central Hospital or Katutura Hospital. So why must he care if that hospital is in a good condition? Where does Kalumbi Shangula get treated? If a minister of health does not trust his own system, why must citizens trust a system? Where is the ministers of education's children? I'm sure their children are not going to the schools that did so horribly in the last exams. They are most probably going somewhere else. So we must be able to start saying, to say that there must be a policy to say that every civil servant, if you are working for government, you must use state-owned facilities. Government workers, they are all being treated at private practices. This is money that should have been going to the state in order to make sure that the facilities are up to standards. But we are now enriching a few people. And this is what people need to understand. Privatization simply means it's a family that owns everything. Nationalization means that the things are now owned by the people of that particular country. That's why you are seeing that we do not speak of nationalization in this country. It's because the politicians now also own their private businesses.
That's true. It makes a lot of sense. And I think like the people, especially our leaders, won't understand these things because they don't experience them, and they don't come to the suburbs. They don't come to the state hospital, so they won't eventually not know the conditions that the poor people are living in and all that. It's only us, the people around the ground, that will know the situation that we are facing, the situation that our own people are actually facing, and the challenges that they're actually going through.
Let me just quickly tell you an interesting story. In 2019, at the height of my stardom and all of that, millionaire, everything. I've got everything I could ever ask for. My friend and I, we went to go play soccer. And football, I jumped to get the ball, and then I fractured my humerus bone. This bone literally broke in half. Parakat. And then I'm there lying in pain. I call the ambulance. E-med comes. They pick me up. Obviously, first thing they do, they drive me to Lady Pohamba. I get there to Lady Pohamba. Now, me, I'm someone who loves money, and I'm conscious about my money. And I asked them, okay, so how much is it going to cost to treat me? No, for now, you just need to deposit 100,000, and then from there on, we'll see what's going to happen. I said, 100,000? Yeah, because they asked me, do you have medical aid? I said, no, I don't have medical aid. And the reason why I don't have medical aid is because medical aid schemes are scams. You pay things on a monthly basis for an eventuality that you get sick. And I'm like, no, the money that I'm giving to the medical aid, why can I not just put it in a saving account? And the day that I get sick, I can just go take from my savings account and go pay for the doctor, because it's just always 1 or 2 days that you have to go see the doctor, whatever. So I was like, no, man, I'm not going to use this facility. Then I said, please take me to Katutura. And at first they're like, no, we've already brought you here. We can't take you back to Katutura. Then I said, by all means, if you treat me, I'm not going to pay you a single cent. And they were like, okay, no. Please send this guy to Katutura. Then I was sent to Katutura. I come to Katutura. The process was slow, but eventually I was able to get assistance for 200 Namibian dollars.
You're supposed to pay 100.
Just 100. No, 100 is just for them to admit you at that time. Then there's going to be a specialist cost that are still going to come and all of that. So the bill was most probably going to run it to about 250,000.
Yeah.
So 200 versus 100,000.
Wow.
But here's my arm today. I can do push-ups. It's still as strong. So all of this. So you can clearly see that we are now using health as a way to make money out of people. Health was supposed to be an issue of humanity. Health was supposed to be an issue of making sure that society is able to be taken care of. But now today it's about if you don't have the money, you cannot be taken care of. It's not to say I didn't have that 100,000. I had more than 100,000. But I said to myself, no man, if you are going to call yourself a leader, then feel what an ordinary person would feel. Yeah. Because I must be able to lead by example. You see, the whole thing about leadership is about saying, I'm going to go to the hospital that my people go to, and I'm going to get attendance there. Yeah. Ask anyone, they'll tell you in 2019 when I broke my arm, where it was treated. The records are there. Yeah. And this is when I had money. This is before they froze my bank accounts and all of this. Not to say I didn't have money or anything of the sort. Yeah. I had money, but I decided, no, I'll be treated in Katra Hospital, just like any other ordinary citizen. And that's what leadership should be about. You should be able to say, this is what's currently wrong with the system, but how do we fix it? But you cannot fix a system that you have no interest in. You cannot fix a system that you have not experienced for yourself. I mean, I saw a lot of fall dead Katutura Hospital, but these are things that could be eventually fixed with leadership. Leadership can fix that problem. Now, that's why the likes of Dr. Bernard Haufiku, when he started fixing the hospitals, what happened? They immediately removed him. Richard Kamwi, he was starting to fix, immediately removed him. You must not fix the system because you are going to jeopardize our business. Who owns private schools?
Our leaders.
To them. So now if you are able to get a proper education at Eshipena, why must I send my child to Windhoek Gymnasium, St. Paul's, where I must pay 11,000 per month, 14,000 per month, 7,000 per month, when I can send my child where maybe if we now need to contribute, maybe it's like a 300 or whatever the case is. But the quality of education is the same as that
of this, the private school.
Of the private school. Wow. So these are the things we should start looking at as a country and start to realize to say that for as long as someone doesn't have an interest in something, it will never be taken care of.
That's very true.
The reason why I take care of my family is because I have an interest in them. The reason why I take care of my community is because I have an interest in them. The reason why I take care of my country is because I have an interest in my country. There is no other country I want to live in. I only know this country. And right now, I'm seeing that the country is being destroyed, and there's no way I'm going to watch silently and see my country being destroyed while I have an interest in it.
That's very true.
Because I don't want my kids to live in Europe. My children are not European. These people are destroying this country because they know at any time, chip in, chip out. They can fly to any country. Ask them. Wasn't it the Minister of Defense, Peter Wilho, when he was exposed for his corruption? He had bank accounts where? Hong Kong. What are you doing as a minister with bank accounts in Hong Kong? It simply means you know, Kucha, what you are doing is wrong, and at some point you need to do what? Run. All these ministers go do their homework. They've got accounts in Switzerland. They've got accounts literally everywhere. It's because they know to say that one day, when the country is going to revolt against them, they've got suitcases packed already. They are just waiting for that day when the people start toiling from Katutura all the way to State House. They are ready to run. So how do you accept leaders who are ready to jump ship? Because what is the purpose of a captain? Who's the last person to leave a ship when the ship is sinking?
The captain.
But these captains are already out of the ship. We are the only ones remaining in the ship. That's the danger.
Wow.
We do not have leaders. And a true leader is the one who sacrifices himself. Imagine these guys are busy buying themselves vehicles each and every single day, while people are just crying to say, we don't have clean drinking water. We are hungry. We are dying from food, from hunger. How many children died in the Omaheke region from malnutrition?
Yeah.
It's sad. But we have people telling us they love us. They care about us. Caring about us is you saying to say, no, man. We have too many portfolios. I myself have too many portfolios. You cannot be, you are the deputy prime minister, you are the minister of international affairs. At some point you must say, no, man, I'm occupying too many portfolios. When does she get time to fulfill all her duties? And this is the same across state-owned enterprises. You will find this person, he's the board chairperson here, there he's a board member, there he's a board member. When do these people, and he's still working at a particular company?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, like, you near first two members in parliament, right? So, like, are you guys willing to pass a motion to actually challenge or to change the constitution to actually abolish the labor law system?
You see, here's the thing. If you've got 96 members of parliament and only 2 are against a particular issue, what concept do we use in this country? We use majority what? Majority rule. So that simply means that the 94 are going to vote against what? That particular motion. So we'll be wasting our time because it's 2 seats versus 94 seats. So there's no way we'll be able to change the constitution. Hypothetically speaking, absolutely not. Because we do not have sufficient seats. But who currently still has the control of the August House? It's still SWAPO. But for the last, how many years? They've not changed it. Remember, for all this years, SWAPO has always had its 2/3 majority. What have they used their 2/3 majority for? They've only used it to change the constitution so that Sam Nujoma can serve for 15 years. They've only used it to change the constitution so that governors are no longer voted but are appointed. They've only used it to create more positions in parliament for themselves. Because remember, here's what a lot of people don't understand. Parliament is big business for political parties. That's why you ask yourself, why is it that these small political parties like UDF, RP, RDP, NUDO, and all these other guys, each year they just contest? It's because for every little seat they are able to get, they get 1 million each year from the government, on top of the salaries that they will receive for their members in parliament. So they are only interested in that $1 million. In fact, the first thing what we're going to do if we ever get into government, we are going to abolish this funding of political parties by taxpayers. Why must government, taxpayers, give money to political parties? 1 million. And you can now imagine all these years where SWAPO used to have 60 seats. That means each year they are getting 60 million. In 10 years, how much is that? That's 600 million. Now you maybe understand how they are able to build headquarters for $1 billion. It's because all these years, they've been literally sucking money from the government. How many political parties have you seen doing social good in society? Very few. But they do receive money from the taxpayers. And these are some of the things that we do not speak about because apparently if you speak about these things, you are not going to fit in the system. It's not about fitting in the system. It's about changing the system for the betterment of the people. Not just for you to go sit there and also just benefit.
So, Michael, like you yourself, you've been on the forefront of so many protests, of so many like standing up for retail workers and all that, and you have gone to prison multiple times, standing up for us, for the citizens of Namibia. So, like, what are some of the challenges, like the challenges that you yourself as well face? That what has that cost you?
I mean, it does a lot, especially with the last arrest. Remember, I only survived from my entrepreneurship skills. Now, obviously, when I'm arrested, that simply means that I'm unable to do business. But still, while I'm in prison, I must make sure that there's food at home, electricity is paid, rent is paid, the children's school fees are paid, and all of these things. With no assistance from the public whatsoever. Zero. Yeah. And then it's always funny when you try and ask the public to say that just donate small money. Then the people are like, no, why must we donate for you? Yeah. And all of these things. But people don't understand that there are costs involved in all of these things. When we run around the country, or when I run around the country, I run around at my own cost. Yeah. Going to be the voice for other people. Remember, at that time, we did not have any union whatsoever. So when people need assistance in Ketmans, you do it at your own cost. You go there. When people need assistance in Rundu, you do it at your own cost. When houses were demolished in Katima Mulilo, I traveled all the way to Katima Mulilo. At cost. So when I'm arrested, that simply means now it's legal fees that need to be paid. Who pays those legal fees? So the public must also come to a point to say that, man, we have this individual who's trying to assist us. But what is it that we as a people are doing to assist this person? And then sometimes just say, okay, if this guy gets arrested, who's taking care of his family? Who's feeding his family if he's in prison? And as a human being, you obviously at some point will become frustrated and say, you know what, I'm going to quit. Because who suffers the most? It's my family. You know, it's not nice being in prison and you call your daughter from prison and your daughter is asking you, Daddy, when are you coming home? What do I tell my child? To say, when am I coming home? She's crying. She's saying, when are you coming home? The kids are laughing at me to say, your father is just always in prison. What do I say? There's going to come a point where obviously when you realize to say that you are now fighting a cause that is lost, meaning that people do not understand what it is that you're doing. You're going to at some point say, man, you know what? I quit. Yeah. And when you quit, people are obviously going to say, yeah, you are now a sellout and whatnot. I can quit now doing these things and take all of this energy and dedicate it to just being an entrepreneur. And that's what I am. All my life, I've just been an entrepreneur. And that's why when people look at me and they see the things that I do, they are unorthodox. They are unorthodox because I'm an unorthodox individual. I don't do things per norm because people are saying, but yeah, do things procedurally. If the procedures are failing, how do you expect me to follow the same procedures that have already failed our people? Our people go to the Ministry of Labor, they report their cases at the Ministry of Labor, and the Ministry of Labor does nothing. In fact, they just sit back and watch. So now you expect me to also go to the Ministry of Labor, report the same case again for the third time or the fourth time, and then they just sit there quietly. But if I go shut down a particular company, maybe they might react. If I go do something, maybe they might do what? They might react. Yeah. So you cannot keep doing the same thing and expecting the same result. And that is why I'm doing things differently. And best believe me, we are getting results. Workers have been able to get salary increasement. Workers have been able to go back to work who have been dismissed. Workers have been able to get now better working conditions and all of these things. And it's all because of the sacrifices that I've been making at a great cost. But for as long as the nation doesn't understand that these things come at great cost, unfortunately, we are never going to be able to free this country. There are some who are saying, yeah, now he has started a union to make money. No, I've not started a union to make money. If I wanted to make money, then from the onset, I would have just started the union. Yeah. But the reason why we've now started to say we're going to establish a union is so that we can now confidently come to a workplace without having to fear 300 police cars, helicopters, dogs, horses coming just for one guy who's speaking for the voiceless. Because right now, criminals are also just watching to say, okay, where's Amushelelo today? Yeah. Okay, so if they hear me in Okuriangava, then they know, yes, we can now go do robberies in Komasda because the police attention will just be where? At Amushelelo. There was a robbery that happened at La France ShopRite. I think that robbery happened while we were busy with a protest somewhere. Now, do you see all of these things?
Yeah.
That we are also now aiding and abetting criminals to continue with their criminal activities. In as much as the fact that they're already going to do these activities, but at least now when they see, okay, he's at this particular place, the focus, let's put it another place.
Yeah.
I once went to a small town called Uis. It's a mining town.
Yeah.
Now, at that Uis, there's only one small police station, and I think there's only about 4 or 5 police officers who normally stay in that police station.
Oh.
They had to send 3 kumbis of special field force from Walvisby, just because Amushelelo was there representing workers of a company in Uis. Yes, these are facts. 3 kumbis.
Wow.
I'm the only one where station commanders, where regional commanders, and even police chiefs come to the ground.
Wow.
You will never see ordinary criminals, they are arrested by constables.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, these police reservists, or even they are arrested by women network. But Amushelelo needs to be arrested by commissioners.
Wow.
What does that tell you? It tells you that politicians, they call this commissioner and say, Commissioner, I'm ordering you yourself to go make sure you arrest that boy. Because when the constables come, when the warrants come, when the chief inspectors come, they know they are small to me. I just tell them, Chief, I know what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
Just tell me which law I've broken, and then I can gladly comply. No, they can't tell you what law you have broken. But they will arrest you, take you to prison, and then charge you for what? Public violence. Where has anyone ever seen me saying that we must burn down this building? Where has anyone ever seen me saying, let us take stones, let us throw the police? In fact, I'm the one to always calm down the people and say, these police officers, they are our brothers, they are our mothers, they are our sisters, they are our uncles, they are our aunties. Our fight is not with them.
Yeah.
Our fight is with their corrupt leaders. They are just taking orders. That's why you will see that I'll laugh with these police officers because I know genuinely that they are not at fault.
Yeah.
They are just following orders. Yeah. Because remember, these people are just, yes sir, yes sir. They just follow orders. In the army, in the police, it's not about using your common sense. It's about following the order that has been given to you. Because the moment you don't follow that order, you'll be charged for insubordination. And you can be discharged. Yeah. So that is why I understand when these police officers come and arrest me. It's not at their own will. Yeah. I've seen some of them cry to say, man, I'm sorry, my brother, but I had no choice. Yeah. Because I also have a family to feed. So I fully understand that. But we must understand as a society to say that when I'm locked up, that simply means I'm like this. And that is why you realize that I had to go on a hunger strike so that I can get a fair trial. Yeah. I had to fight for myself to come out of prison. You see, in a normal society where people understand what it is that I'm doing, the day I go into prison, the people will be gathering each and every single day that prison cell or that police station or whatever, and they are going to stay there and say, Chief, we are not leaving until that guy comes out. Because we know that person did not do anything. Yeah. I mean, I'll understand if I kill someone. I'll understand if I rape a minor. I'll understand if I rape an old person. I'll understand if I'm accused of stealing a rhino or poaching a rhino and I'm denied bail. Yeah. Or I'll understand if I'm selling drugs. But I'm being denied bail simply because I was speaking
for the people.
For the people. And the people that I'm speaking for, what happens? They always run.
They go back.
They go back. Yeah. So you can clearly see that our people still have fear in their minds. Because the moment they just see a blue uniform, a police officer, we want to run. In fact, they must just see a security guard. Then they run. Yeah. But I want a generation that's eventually going to come that does not fear the system. Because the police are there to protect and save us. They are not there to brutalize us. But right now you can clearly see that there are a few elements that are brutalizing our people. Yeah. Yesterday I received an SMS. Young people in the area of Havana, They were apparently being harassed. A taxi guy was beaten and so forth. So these are things that we cannot tolerate. And these police officers are doing it deliberately, and they are saying that we'll lock you up if you report this thing to anyone. The Constitution is clear. The police cannot beat up anyone. You cannot be beaten up by the police.
We don't know these things. It's the public.
If a police officer beats you up, you have full rights to go open a case against the police. But guess what? Because our system is so corrupt, these police officers are not going to open a case against their own people. And if they do open that case is not going to be investigated. So you can clearly see that the whole system is too corrupt. That's why we literally need to uproot this thing and remove it. It's like you having a cancerous tumor. What happens? It must be cut out. Now, the current government is a cancer to our society, and we need to remove that cancer before it spreads. Remember, cancer, if it's detected early, it can be treated. But late detection, that simply means that it's going to be too late. Our country is going to be destroyed. Now, we are still at the point where we can salvage whatever is left of our country. But if we allow things to continue going, if we give these guys another 5 years, I'm sorry, there will be no country left.
So, like, what is, like, Namibia is just like any other African countries. Like our leadership system is basically almost like the same. And the challenges that we are having here, I bet all African countries, we are all facing the same challenges, being, the system. So, like, what is your message to our African leaders or to our African people,
I think it's high time that Africans start realizing that we're one. Because the divisions that have been placed upon us makes us look down upon each other. When one sees a Zimbabwean, you want to laugh at a Zimbabwean because their country has fallen apart, not knowing that indirectly your country is also soon going to fall apart. When one sees an Angolan, you see, no, these are people who come from a dirty country or whatsoever. When one sees a South African, one only sees criminals and things like that. But this is not how we're supposed to view each other. And as Africans, for as long as we do not realize that we're one, we are obviously going to continue being divided. And in our isolation, that's how we're going to be defeated. But the moment we realize to say that there is a problem in Angola, we must all stand up and say the elections in Angola were a fraud. And we all start demonstrating against those elections. If elections in Zimbabwe were a fraud, how come we as Namibia, South Africa, Botswana, and all other African countries, as the people now, leave the governments? Because remember, the reason why these guys have the African Union, it's their corrupt club. It's their club where they obviously discuss how to oppress us, how to rig elections, how to get as much money as they can from the IMF so they can buy their private jets, luxury cars, and all of these things. So these guys walk as one. That's why you will realize that all these bodies from SADC, ECOWAS, you mentioned them. They are all toothless bodies, useless.
Toothless bulldogs.
What happened? They were threatening Niger, ECOWAS. They were there speaking boldly. We are just giving them 1 week. How many months has it been now? Useless. So you can clearly see that these guys are only doing it to appease their masters, which is obviously the West and the Chinese and the Indians now. So we as the African people must realize to say that Africa is a very rich continent, but Africa continues to be a poor country because we are not resourceful. Having resources doesn't mean you are resourceful. There are countries such as Singapore, zero resources. Absolutely no natural resources. But Singapore has, if I'm not mistaken, the 6th or 7th largest economy in the world. And it's only thanks to leadership. Japan doesn't have resources. But Japan is the one making sure that we've got Sony, we've got PlayStations. If you look at all the cars in Africa, what's the most popular car in Africa? It's a Toyota. Where does it come from? It comes from Japan. But where do the minerals come from that built that particular Toyota? They come from here, Africa. So, for as long as we do not realize that this continent is a rich continent and we must take ownership of it. Sadly, we are going to continue being colonized through this new financial system that they've gotten. Remember, most of the African countries, we were given our independence on silver platters. Look at Ghana. It was the first country to gain its independence. British literally gave it to them to say, here, have your country back. Sierra Leone, have your country back. And you can keep mentioning them. They were all given back. It was only a handful of countries that fought for their independence. And that's why you realize to say that, why is it that the whites still own majority of our land? They still own majority of our mines. Yeah. They still own majority of the businesses and things like that. Yeah. It's because a deal was struck whereby a few black petty bourgeoisies are now going to become the rulers, but behind them are the real masters. Why do you think in Africa we can never decide to set up our own refineries? Africa's richest men, wealthiest men, Aliko Dangote, they've started with him.
Really?
Aliko Dangote built Nigeria's largest refinery. Yesterday, I read that his offices were raided. Now, that's how they start. Very soon, they are going to arrest him. Then, once they've arrested him, they are going to seize his refinery. Because in Africa, you will never be allowed to become independent. Imagine Nigeria is one of the largest producers of oil, but Nigeria's oil still comes from the West. Same with Angola.
Yeah.
Same with Gabon. Same with Equatorial Guinea. Equatorial Guinea is the third richest country in Africa, but it has the most poor people in the continent. Equatorial Guinea only has a population of less than 1.6 million people. But go look in that country. Poverty is literally everywhere. It's because of bad leadership. And you know what's the worst part? There you can see it's a family business. I've just forgotten the president's name. But the president, his son is the vice president. That's how interesting things are in this country or in this continent. How do we allow for a country to become a private business? Now, this is the funny thing. This guy recently went to a New York summit, this organization called the UN, most useless organization ever. Ask me why it's the most useless organization ever. Without any shred of evidence, the UN was able to pass a resolution to attack Iraq. Mass weapons, weapons of mass destruction. Then they passed the resolution, and then what did Britain, America, and its allies start to do? They started to attack Saddam Hussein. The reason why they attacked Saddam Hussein, Saddam Hussein no longer wanted to use the US dollar to trade his oil. He wanted to use the euro. And America was like, no way I'm going to allow you to do that. And then guess what they did? We fabricated stories. Up until today, there is no single shred of proof that Saddam Hussein had any weapons of mass destruction. But has Tony Blair and Bush been held accountable? Absolutely not. How many African leaders have been tried in the ICC over genocide cases and human rights violations? Plenty. But right now we are witnessing the greatest genocide we are witnessing, literally. Israelis killing Palestinians. But guess what is happening? Nothing. So this African leader of ours goes there, rents a penthouse costing a few millions, and then he goes, stands in front of the UN, and then he's now there saying his country is poor, he needs money, and all of these things. We only have poor leadership. That's why Africa is poor. It's because of poor leadership. In fact, the moment I call them leaders, then I'm giving them a bit of substance. They're not even leaders. These are hyenas, these are wolves, these are jackals, these are snakes, these are thieves, these are looters, these are nothing but mafias who are claiming to be presidents of countries. This is what they are. So for as long as we, the people, are part of the problem, we are never going to see a prosperous Africa. There must come a generation of Africans that are going to say enough is enough with this looting, enough is enough with this corruption. And we must be able to fight this corrupt people the same way we fought colonialism, the same way we fought imperialism, the same way we fought fascism, and all these other forms of systems that create injustice in our society. We must be able to say that, no, this government, we are also now going to mobilize arms, and then we are going to fight these governments, because they are just doing the same thing that the old guys used to do. The only difference is now it's a black person who is enslaving you, nothing else.
Yeah. And the last question, Michael, that I have for you is, how do you want to be remembered as?
Here's the thing. If I'm dead, why would I want to be remembered?
Like, people have to...
No.
Yeah.
If I'm dead, why must I be concerned about being remembered? Remember, I'm dead.
Yeah.
I must be concerned about what people think of me now. Why must I be concerned with what will people think of me when I'm dead? And guess what? You're not going to matter once you're dead, because we'll bury you this weekend and we'll never visit your graveyard. How many of you have gone back to visit the graveyard of the people you have buried? None. So why then must I be bothered about what people are going to think of me? So what people are going to think of me, that's absolutely up to them. But for as long as I'm alive, I'm going to do what is necessary. I cannot care about what is going to happen to me after life. I just care about what's happening right now to my people. So those who want to remember me, it's their choice. So I'm not going to dictate, because remember, if I say I want to be remembered like this, what am I doing? I'm dictating to you to say that you must remember me as such. No. Remember me whatever way you want to remember me. But I'm not bothered about remembrance. What matters is, what am I able to do now? What am I able to achieve now? That's all that matters. Because after death, you are dead. And here's the funny thing, I want to live in peace. I don't want to rest in peace. That's why I fight on a daily basis, so that I can live in peace. Now, you guys want me to rest in peace, but you did not allow me to live in peace.
To live in peace while you're alive.
So let's start caring about those who are alive, as opposed to just caring about the dead. And that's why you realize in most African countries, we spend so much money on the dead. Pukovitz, one of the wealthiest Namibians, went in a simple coffin made out of, I think it was a cardboard box or something like that. But us, we want that one with the gold, the silver, the one with the glass, all these things. We must, that mentality, you can clearly see that we are still mentally enslaved as Africans. And that's why when a child is alive, we do not take care of them. But the moment they die, we'll buy them a nice fancy suit, a nice tombstone. This child might have just died from hunger, but all of a sudden there will be money. We are going to eat nice that day of the funeral. But all these days, that child was just hungry and died from hunger. Did you see those families in Okavango? The 16 that died last year?
Yeah.
All of a sudden there was money to buy coffins, and caskets. But when those people were alive and they needed food, no one bothered.
Yeah.
Do you see that? So me, I'm concerned with the living. I can never be concerned with the dead. My concern is the living. So those who are concerned with the dead, let them make it their business of being concerned with the dead. But as to what I would like to be remembered for,
it's only up to...
I do not even want to have that discussion. Yes.
Wow, interesting. Thank you so much, Michael, for actually giving us the time, giving us for actually allowing us to talk to you and for you to share your experience and your thoughts. So is there anything else that you want to before we...
Yeah, talking is not really what I love the most. What I love the most is being out there doing what needs to be done, because we have too many people who talk too much, but do nothing. So that's my Chinese accent, because people think I hate the Chinese. No, I just hate people who oppress others. I've got Chinese friends. I've got white friends. I've got Indian friends. Like, I'm literally friends with each and every single race, ethnicity, and all of this. But the moment you oppress anyone, then best believe me, I'm no longer going to see eye to eye with you, because what you're doing is not right. So I fight systems of oppressions. I fight people who oppress others. I'm not fighting the Chinese as per se because I hate Chinese. No. I'm friends with Mr. Lee, I'm friends with Mr. Hu, I'm friends with Mr. Wang, Mr. He, Mr. He Ha. So they are my friends. Those who don't oppress others. Because they are good Chinese. Let's get it right.
Yeah, no?
They are the good ones who treat our people right. But it's the bad ones that we want to remove from our society. Those ones who are maltreating our people are the ones who are going to remove from our society. Doesn't matter now whether you are black, whether you are white, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Because people have a tendency to say, why is it that I only fight the Chinese and the Indians? But I say I fight the government on a daily basis. And it's not a white government. It's a what? It's a black government.
Yeah.
The president is black.
Yeah.
His vice is black.
Yeah.
The only guy who's white there was, I think it's Kale Schladman.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, I've not yet bumped heads with Kale Schladman. Not yet. Not to say I'm scared of him. I'm just saying not yet because obviously I've not yet clashed with him.
Yeah.
The reason why I clashed with Tony, I don't have any hate. I don't hate Tony Nuyoma.
Yeah.
No, but he's just useless. It's just a fact. He's just a useless minister. Maybe he was useful in another portfolio. But as far as I'm concerned, what I'm seeing here at the Ministry of Labor, very useless. So he must not take offense when I say he's useless. Useless simply means that you are not useful. Right now, he's not useful to the workers of Namibia. That's why he is useless. So it's English. And perhaps, Minister, if you do not understand English, I'm more than welcome in my free time to give you lessons so that you can understand that some of these words that I use are just mere English words. Nothing else. It's just, if I have to explain to someone, am I a genius or am I an idiot? I can only be one of the two. I cannot be both.
Yeah.
So people might describe me to say I'm an idiot because I've obviously shown them my idiotic side. So what I've seen from the current minister, very useless, unfortunately. But I've got nothing personal against him. I just want him to retire so he can go home. He must go enjoy the millions he has accumulated over the years so that we can have someone competent.
Yeah.
And then if we have someone competent, then we would not even need this many useless unions in this country. We'll just take people's money. Because how come we as taxpayers, we are paying a whole entire ministry to defend the rights of workers? But at the same time, now we must involve activists, now we must involve political parties, now we must involve unions just to solve a problem that should have not been there from the start. Because if our country had strong enforcement in terms of their policies, we would not be seeing these issues. Companies can do and abuse our people as they please because guess what? We have already bribed those at the top who are supposed to enforce the law. Deitunga all these years, a good friend of Stinahu. Stinahu has been bribing Deitunga all these years. Yes. These are things I can openly speak out. If Deitunga has an issue, he can take me to court. He knows for a fact that Stinahu has been bribing him. In fact, Deitunga has been so corrupt, he literally built himself a house in Kurenkuru using bricks from a police station that was being built. So this is what this guy did. Go look at that police station built in Kurenkuru. Yeah. The same bricks that were used for the police station, the same bricks used for Deitunga's house in Kurenkuru.
Wow.
Do you want to tell me this guy just loves the bricks of a police station that he would also use them in his own very personal house? No. And sadly, he gambled all his money away. And that is why he begged the president to fire, what is that other governor, and replace him with him. Yes. Because I don't get it. That guy had like a small scandal and immediately he got rid of him. Here we've got Joseph Shikongo, who was in a car accident. You can hear that there's a bit of cover, but the president is quiet. You can clearly see that the president is scared of certain people. Geshavia, what is the poor guy? Devashia. He was just a poor guy. He's got nothing. He was just there, appointed governor. And so, sadly, the guy had to just be let go. But people who we can also see are incompetent, doing nothing in this country. Nothing is being done to them. The ministers who are performing, they all get fired because you must not perform. You must be an incompetent individual. That's why we reward incompetency. Anangi Pondoka is supposed to be fired. The first time we got those results of 2023, she was supposed to be fired. But guess what? She's now here telling parents that we must not teach our children, we must not speak too much English. How can we not speak English when, if I do not obtain a B or C in English, I can pass all the other marks. I'm not going to go to university. It's because we have made English the prerequisite in order for me to go to university. Do you know that you can have your 42 points, but for as long as you have an E in English, sorry, you cannot go to university. Do you understand? Even you can clearly see these people are bar. For now, I don't want to start off the year by calling these people names that are English words, but it's fine. She must just resign. Simple as that. In countries where citizens hold their leaders accountable, people resign. Let us look at Britain. How many prime ministers since David Cameron? Just mention for me. How many prime ministers has Britain had? We had David Cameron, we had Theresa May, we had Boris Johnson, we had another one who was just there for 2 weeks or what. Yeah. We now have an Indian who's in charge of Britain. But look at our country. In 34 years, we've only had 3 leaders. It just tells you that our citizens are so ignorant that they do not understand that they are the ones actually who are supposed to be in charge of the country. Remember, the reason why things are happening the way they are is because our people are ignorant. Ignorance is poverty. Remember, those people, we vote them so that they can do what? Take care of our country, manage our resources. And we are the ones who are supposed to say, guys, you are not doing this management properly. Get out. We want to put others who can do it properly. Yes.
Thank you so much, Michael.
It's a pleasure.
Hi there, folks. So this is our episode for the week. And if you really found this episode interesting and inspiring as I did, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and to also like the video for you to be, and to turn on the notification button for you to be always notified whenever we post any episode such as this one. And if you have more questions for Michael, and if you need another episode with Michael Amushelelo, you can just mention it in the comment section. You can as well put your questions there in the comment section, and we will obviously be back with another episode. So thank you so much for watching, and the goodbye from me.